Hey guys. Um, so this evening I wanted to make this video, but I didn't want to set up to be on camera. So instead I've made this, probably enjoyed a little bit too much, putting together this little setup that I hope you find peaceful and cozy to watch if you're taking the time to listen to this video. So, what I want to talk about is we are coming into an age where some of us are awakening to the fact that all of us are here as a team. No matter your political views, differences, good or bad, or whatever. We really are all a team. And even the people you think are not helpful or downright bad, you maybe think that there's certain behavior or motives that are just too dark to be part of this team, and that's perfectly understandable. One would feel that way naturally, but I guess it might help to look at them. I kind of want to look at, if possible, these people as like wounded soldiers who can't join the collective fight due to their injuries. That's basically someone that has maybe they just have too much hurt, or they become too jaded with whatever power or superficial things, or maybe they just had like such a difficult upbringing that it's so hard for them to shine through that, really. And it doesn't matter if who you think is good someone else thinks is bad, right versus left or whoever, because if we all subscribe to this way of thinking that we're a team, then we all win. I know it might sound a bit, I guess, corny or whatever, but we can let each other have their views, and put our trust that the universe, or if you're religious, or use the word God, or whatever you believe in, knows what it's doing. That we don't know more than a higher power. If you do believe that there's something bigger than you, that could even just be nature. But if you do believe in something bigger than you, then you do realize that it probably knows a lot more what it's doing than one of us individually would. That's only here for like a little flash of a moment in history, and everyone has their place. Everyone has their place. You may think, well, these people are making it too difficult. Some of these people are making it too difficult for us to move forward, for us to win this, battle, whatever it is, that we're all fighting towards, I guess, a common good. And that they should change, or they should just be gone altogether. They're just so bad, they should just be gone. But that's not, really how a team works, or if you want to look at it in terms of war, how an army works together. You carry those who are injured, and you carry who you can carry, but you also know that you have to take care of yourself, because if you don't, you won't be able to carry anybody or fight what needs to be fought. So it's very important, that you take care of yourself. And what we are all fighting here is really for us to all awaken into our true identity. I believe why we are here. is for the universe, or for, God, or whatever you want to call it, to awaken through us, to be able to fully exist in the form, and that there is no actual enemy in this battle. It's like a bird hatching out of an egg. Would it consider its shell an enemy? No. That shell protected it until it needed to break out, because it got too big for the shell, and it doesn't need it anymore. So the shell is our ego, our emotions, our fears, old ways of thinking that, we're there for good purpose originally, to protect us, to help us survive, but that we don't need anymore, or not so much. So now is the time for us to break free of it. Or we're going through that process, so we're starting to break free. It's not easy for something to like that to happen. Just like it's really hard, for that little bird at first to get out of the shell. It takes time, but the strength earned fighting to get out of that shell, because it's a lot of work. You're gaining strength by getting out of that shell. It's what helps the bird to be strong enough for its new life outside of the shell. And we are all together that one bird. So if someone does or says something that hurts you, or something that you feel isn't right, if you can, I know, and I know it's hard, like, because you're gonna have that natural instinct fighting against you, that natural protection fighting against you, and what for centuries, believing that sometimes people are, just can be bad or whatever. I think for us to just start looking at these people as like, it's like a wounded soldier. And really, we're all wounded soldiers from time to time. And, if you feel that you are too wounded to carry others, to give yourself, that's the time, you need to give yourself to heal until, that you're well again, back able to fight really this battle. And, at first, when we're starting to sort of peck at that shell, and we're going through these bouts of maybe what they call like the dark night of the soul, or we're feeling heavy, we're going through something. It takes a while sometimes to get out of that dark space, but as you do, it does eventually get quicker for you to pick yourself up if you are doing the healing work each time. So it does get quicker, and it does get easier, and then all of a sudden it's going to come a time where you're hardly down for very long. As long as we're in a human body, we're always going to have like some reminiscent of like a shell, at least probably for, I would imagine, some generations to come. But eventually, yeah, you just, you won't be down, you won't be down for very long in that space. You'll be spending so much more time in a good space. And basically what I meant by carrying others is you carry others, and you are fighting this battle by holding the space of light. That's the fight. It's holding the light. And that's all you need to do. We all have different purposes and journeys and like tasks while we're here. But I really think that sometimes just sort of carrying that light, holding that space, can have more impact than some of the greatest tangible deeds that you can imagine. And really, you do it for all of us, because by doing it for all of us, you're doing it for yourself. There have been many horrible things in our individual lives and even throughout history that, we can look back on, that if we were to take the time to connect the dots, you can actually, you can see the phoenix that rose from the ashes, something bad that led to something beautiful. And yeah, it's just like, it's hard to connect those dots sometimes, but it's there. And it's really, it's only in the struggle that something evolves. In order for something to have gotten stronger, like, it needed to go through a long period of struggle. And if you want to believe that darkness, or people say evil, exists, and that it's against you, then it wins. It's kind of there because if we believe in it, it's there. It's almost like, okay, you want to say unicorns don't exist or something like that, fairies don't exist, but they do in our... We've created them. They may not, you may not be like, well, okay, they don't exist in the physical world, but in our world and in our timeline or whatever, they exist because we imagine them up. They're in books, they're in movies. They're, you can close your eyes and you can picture them if you wanted to. So essentially, that is an existence. So basically, by kind of believing that darkness exists, it's like, can you imagine if it doesn't, but we believe in it, or we kind of make it real through our imaginations or whatever, then it wins, whatever it is, even if it's a fictional thing. Like, whatever we've created or made that to be, it has its power because you believe in it. You believe it's real. And I mean, if it were real, what more could it want than for you to believe that it exists? Darkness cannot exist where there is only light. I would say, tell it that you don't believe in it anymore. You don't believe in the that there's darkness in others. You don't believe that darkness in others is real. That light is their only truth, and that dark is an illusion. And if darkness or evil had a face, you could imagine the look on it. If you're refusing to have fear, refusing to believe that there's bad in the world, I mean, how could it exist then? If nobody thinks it's real, and it's like, it's not able to affect anyone. It's not able to work through anyone, infiltrate anything. If it's like not been, like if nobody thought of the unicorn, it never would have, it's like, it's gone. It's not in any time. So yeah, I mean, this is something that we struggle with. We really struggle, because we're like, well, what about, these horrible things? How could such, horrible things happen? and there not be like, how could God let this happen? Or obviously, there needs to be an evil force at work. But when you realize that we are all from the same source, whether it's, if you're spiritual or religious, you're from the universe, or you're from God, or even if you just you believe you're from Mother Nature, like we all come from one thing. We all have like the same origin. And if we're all one, then think of it like maybe like one horrible thing happening to one individual and a series of individuals. We don't, obviously our goal is that we don't want that to happen, but getting caught up and letting it sit in your heart, and feeling bad about it and feeling angry about it and letting it feed that, the fear and the anger. I would, I think it's to know that by all of us being one, something happening to one individual, or happening to, if it has something happened to you at some point in your life that that was really, really difficult, it's happening kind of in a I don't know if I should get into this. It's basically like, because we're still in that shell, and we've not yet hatched out of it. The universe has not, or God has not hatched through us yet. We keep seeing these things as people doing things to other people. We don't realize that this is just still old or dormant egos or behaviors, and combination of the experiences that we've gone through, our genetics, like all these things that are acting out in certain ways that we perceive as bad. Of course, like we don't want these horrible things to happen to people anymore. But sort of realizing that this stuff happening is happening as part of sort of like a blanket that is all connected. And I'm going to get right to it. Like, it's basically like, universe and God, and it's not doing it to you, and it's not, like doing it to him. It's like, it's doing it to itself, because every single thing that has ever existed and will exist is from that place. So, for centuries we're like, well, how could this stuff happen? But you have to realize, like, these forms that are arising as people or animals or plants or whatever, these forms they're like, they're shells really, and all of them within them are lit by the light of the true one consciousness. So, God, I know this is going to be really, it's going to be interesting maybe for some to how they're going to maybe feel about my perspective on this. But basically, it's like God doing it to itself, but not doing it as in like a bad thing. It's just like, it's just what's happening on the form level of creation, because of where we are at in that point of evolution. And it's not that God wants, or the universe wants, these bad things to happen. It's just at that level, like the universe and God is inside you, and it's inside all of us, and it's like, it knows ultimately that nothing is bad, and that nothing really dies, and that it seems bad in the form surface, like the things that are happening in the form, the things that are happening to certain people, or to children, or to animals and stuff, because we're not like fully awakened yet. We're still being like, oh my goodness, this is so horrible, this is so painful, like this shouldn't be happening. But from like the perspective of the universe, it's like, but you guys, I am you. You're all just me. And this form thing is basically is temporary, and it's ultimately not what's real. And there's ultimately, not really, there's not really like an actual death. So yeah, sorry, I did go on kind of a tangent there. I did realize that was maybe a bit harder to explain in a way that I felt would maybe be able to make sense to everybody. It's hard to even, obviously make sense of it and to myself. It's what I feel, and it's what I've always kind of really felt deep down underneath, even though I myself go through moments of, it's really hard to see some of the things that happen and know about some of the things that happen and go through some of the things that happen yourself. And not get caught up with being like, holy crap, that stuff is really dark or that's really evil. But as we wake up, and this stuff, it starts to shed. It will shed as the light starts to break through into this world. Those things are going to start to subside more and more, and they will fade, because like it just there's no sense for them anymore. Because I mean, not trying to say that there's sense for them. It's like if you are in a really good healthy place in your life, you're not very likely to go and like rob a store or get drunk and drive or something like that. The same way that as more and more light comes onto this planet, we're not going to see this crazy stuff that's happening on the physical level. That's like from old primitive fear and anger and behaviors that have been like passed down for centuries and centuries. Because I'm sorry, but bad stuff's always been happening. And I mean, it's always been happening. It's always been happening. I think, sometimes we want to think that there were maybe better times or whatever. But I think the fact that there's 7-8 billion of us here on this planet, if there is really so much dark in the world, it's quite the absolute miracle that we're all at this stage of existing so close together. And in a lot of parts of the world peacefully. I know, yeah, like there's certain parts of the world where it's still very difficult. There's different countries in different stages, and you may go to one country and think, or you may judge one country for having things that you really dislike, but you'd be surprised that you might find other things that you do like about it, and vice versa. But like everything on the planet, everything you can see, touch, or feel, every single atom, as hard as it might be to believe, looking at certain things, there's certain people that it's almost impossible to believe that there's maybe good somewhere in there, that there's a light in there, that a piece of the source of the universe, of God, is actually the reality of that individual. In every single thing, in every atom, it is all a piece of that same place. It is created by one thing, and it is one thing. It's all created by one thing, and it all is one thing. So I did a little bit lose where, my vibe behind this. um, but I just want to say, like, you know, try it in your own life. Try it for a month or two, long enough that your heart and your mind can see results. We're here in quarantine, or we're in Corona times, and what better time than to experiment. Like, got time on our hands. I've got time. I made this little display for you guys to hopefully enjoy. Hopefully you think it's cute, and just like see if you can get into that space of believing that ultimately no one is really bad, or that there is no real darkness. Um, it's just how we're perceiving it in the form level, and that's understandable, where for us to be there where we're at this point in our evolution, and it's understandable for where people were at 100 years ago, and it was understandable where people are at 1,000 years ago. um, if you really want, like, you go into it like a history museum, and you'll see some of the things throughout history, if you want to believe that there was a better time, like some of the torture devices and some of the things that people believed, like, they were drilling holes in each other's heads to get demons out. Oh my goodness. We have come a long way, and with women's rights, and there's all sorts of different things that are popping up as we go. And I understand that when you're in the thick of it, it seems like there's no major progress, and things seem ugly. But that's why it's really important to take a big bird's eye view, and to see how far that we've come, and to make note of the things that are better. So give it a go. Give it a go. Why not? Like, if you don't like the results, you can go back. It won't be easy to do this, because it's part of the shell. It's those protective measures that were made to help you survive long ago, and they're going to tell you that this way of thinking, to think that everyone's possibly actually from a good, like, there's actually deep down good inside of them. It's going to tell you it's not right, because it was built to protect you. And got to respect that, that it doesn't, that it's just doing its job. It doesn't think that you're safe outside of its confines, outside of that shell. But that's, like I said, that's why you need to do it for long enough to see how it changes your life for the better, so that you can, crack a hole in that shell, and let the light come in, and to get a taste for that light. Because a lot of us, we're pecking away at that shell, not even knowing that what we're pecking for, what we're pecking towards. And I honestly really feel for people at that place. Like, that's a really tough place, because once you do peck through enough to get a taste of that light, you at least have incentive for when we make those dark dips, because it's a roller coaster. You go through a dark dip, and then you come out for some light, and you go there, and so if you do enough, if you do heal something when you come out of that dark place, if something does properly, like, heal, you will get a good taste for that light. But the intervals between the dark periods won't be anywhere near as long as you'd want them to be, but eventually it gets bigger and bigger, and it gets easier, and you get enough of a taste of that light. Enough of that light comes shining through, that you're just motivated even through those dark times. Even though I'm working through it myself too sometimes still, where you're in that place. It's hard to remember what you're working towards, but like, it does get easier, and what can you do? You keep going. So yeah, I'm working on this stuff as well. It does get easier. You won't feel that progress in the moments you're on a low wave, but when you look back at the big picture and see how far you've come, like do that bird's eye view. The same thing. Look at the bird's eye view of human history, and look at the bird's eye view of your own history. And you might think there were certain times in your life where things were easier, but a lot of us like to say, well, I wish I knew then what I know now. So you have come far. You have come far, and don't overly worry about making mistakes. I don't care if you make the same 50 mistakes. They're not, they're not really mistakes. It's hard to believe that. They're not your mistakes to begin with. It's just the shell giving you a hard time. They're not, and try and do that for others as well. Like, do it for yourself and do it for others. That it's just the shell giving them a hard time. It's just the shell giving you a hard time, and they really do want to be the best version of themselves, the same way that you want to be the best version of themselves. And beating yourself up and pointing the finger at others, like, we're not helping ourselves, we're not helping others, we're not being part of that team. Let's get on. Let's all get on board. Let's all be part of this team now. It's time. And just know it's the intention that counts more than anything. I promise. Don't worry about mistakes. Don't worry about them. So if you've listened to me babble along this far, thank you. And I am wishing you all the warmth on your journey.